Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi was born in Porbandar, Gujarat State, India on 2nd October 1869. After completing his schooling, he proceeded to London, where he qualified as a barrister in 1891. 2 years later, his professional services were engaged by Abdullah Haji Adam Javeri, Dada Abdullah, a wealthy Durban trader, in a £40,000 lawsuit against a rival firm in Pretoria. In May 1893, the 22-year-old Gandhi arrived in Durban. Thus began his South African chapter. Dada Abdullah's firm was in Green Acres Passage, which today is just off West Street. While in Durban, he visited the local magistrate's court. He was requested to remove his turban. Unaware of the racial prejudices existing in South Africa at that time, the young Gandhi refused and left the court. The press noted him as an unwelcome visitor. Then, on the 23rd of June, he left by train to Johannesburg. Durban's tourist junction marks the old station of his departure. At Pietermaritzburg, a white passenger objected to Gandhi's presence in the compartment. Gandhi refused to move as he pointed out that his ticket entitled him to first-class travel. But he was thrown off the train, where he spent the cold night contemplating his resolve to fight injustice. On 27 April 1997, Mahatma Gandhi was posthumously awarded the freedom of the city together with Nelson Mandela. Receiving the citation, the Mahatma's grandson, Mr. Gopal Krishna Gandhi, High Commissioner for India, said, "Gandhi fell with a railway ticket no one honored. He rose with a testament none could ignore. He fell a passenger, but rose a patriot, fell a barrister, but rose a revolutionary. His legal brief became a political cause. His sense of human decency transformed itself into a passion for human justice. The personal died in him that moment and turned public. Mine became thine. In fact, Mohandas Gandhi was not flung here, he was launched." Almost a year later, after the conclusion of his case, Gandhi returned to Durban en route back home. A farewell party was given in his honor, at which Gandhi was alerted of the intention of the Natal legislature to disenfranchise Indians. At the request of the Indian merchants present, Gandhi postponed his departure and decided to stay in Natal to take up the fight for them. Subsequently, the Natal Indian Congress was formed on 22nd May 1894. In Gandhi's time, the meetings of the Congress were held in the vicinity of the Grey Street Mosque, where the Ajmeri Arcade now stands. In later years, the NIC had its meetings in Lakhani Chambers in Savile Street. Gandhi now lived in Beech Grove, Durban, and to earn his own keep, he got admitted as an advocate and started practicing law. Yet another year had passed before Gandhi left for India to garner support for the Indian cause as well as to bring his family. He returned to the shores of Natal in December 1896 with his wife, 2 children, and a nephew. Following misconstrued news reports, 5,000 white demonstrators at the point tried to prevent Gandhi and the others from landing. The passengers only stepped ashore on the 13th of January 1897. On the day of landing, Gandhi himself came ashore with a boat that brought him up a creek to where Mills Road now stands. Not far away, at Tudor House, previously known as Ship Hotel, Gandhi was almost lynched by a hostile white mob. In Medwood Gardens was the police station where Gandhi was sheltered after the assault. Gandhi refused to lay charges. Sought refuge in the home of Parsi Rustomji at 84, now 110 Field Street, between Commercial and Queen Street. His chambers were now in Mercury Lane, in partnership with R.K. Khan. He saw firsthand the harsh treatment given to indentured Indian labourers and served an hour every morning at the St. Aidan's Mission Dispensary of Dr. Booth, seeing to their medical needs. Situated near Cross and Leopold Streets, this later became St. Aidan's Hospital through the funding of Parsi Rustomji. Gandhi offered his services freely during the Anglo-Boer War of 1899. He formed an Indian Volunteer Ambulance Corps of about 1,100 men, made up mostly of indentured labourers and about 300 traders and professionals. After this war service, Gandhi felt a need to serve more in India, and so in 1901 he gave up the Beech Grove House and Mercury Lane office and returned with his family to India, where they promised to return if the community should need him in an emergency. Hardly 2 years passed when Gandhi received a cable from South Africa. Remembering his promise, he gave up his growing practice in Bombay and arrived in South Africa to lead a deputation to the then Secretary of State for the Colonies, Mr. Chamberlain. After the Anglo-Boer War, the racial prejudice against Indians worsened, and Gandhi found himself in the midst of the struggle in the Transvaal. Gandhi set himself up as an attorney and began to address their legal concerns. He realized that the battle was not going to be simple and recalled his family back from India once again. After seeking Gandhi's advice, the Indian Opinion was founded by V. Madanjit in Durban in 1903, but the printing press later was moved to Phoenix. The newspaper published in Gujarati, Hindi, Tamil, and English, not only reported on matters concerning the Indian population, but became the mouthpiece for the Natal Indian Congress. According to Gandhi, the Indian opinion was meant to serve and keep the local and international communities informed of the events in South Africa and thereby function as an effective and potent weapon in the struggle. Gandhi contributed many articles to the newspaper, which became a vehicle for his thoughts and ideas. He would often fund the newspaper when it experienced financial difficulties. In 1904, Gandhi purchased a farm near Mount Edgecombe. He called it the Phoenix Settlement. Influenced by his readings of Tolstoy and Ruskin, as well as the trappers at Marion Hill Monastery, the settlement was based on the ideals of communal living, whereby all persons, irrespective of their social standing and occupation, would receive an equal wage. In 1906, Zulus in Natal were subjected to a crippling and harsh hut tax against which they protested very strongly. The war that ensued between the colonists and Zulus saw casualties on both sides, but heaviest on the part of the Zulus. Gandhi formed an Indian ambulance corps of 20 men, each of whom were paid 1 shilling and 6 pence by the Natal Indian Congress. Gandhi's experience in the Zulu rebellion and the horrors he witnessed changed his life forever. By 1906, Gandhi was still in the process of formulating his moral, political, and philosophical principles. At a mass meeting of 3,000, the Indians swore they would die first rather than bend to the act, and so Satyagraha was born. Satyagraha, soul force, pure and simple, was used as a new weapon in the campaign for justice of a voiceless people. Gandhi served his first prison sentence in 1908. Since General Smuts, the Prime Minister at that time, did not keep his word, Gandhi initiated mass public action by burning of passes in a 3-legged pot. This changed Gandhi's lifestyle. He then gave up his legal practice and his private home and began living with his family and followers at Tolstoy Farm and at Phoenix, which provided a refuge for the Satyagrahis. The passive resistance campaign brought about the most powerful occurrence against the government. Although Gandhi left South Africa on December 19, 1914 for the last time, his spirit was cemented to South Africa when a portion of his ashes were brought from India and immersed outside Durban.